Every moment that we dedicate to this alignment with our natural source self is highly valuable, highly important in your life, because everybody lives life. Finding time for your deeper self, your natural self, your true self is beyond life, is beyond the cycles, beyond happenings and changes. So God's grace, everything happens via the divine grace. It's just that the ego many times is in the way, running its show. However, the time of ego is limited. The show will come to the end, and everything surrenders to divine grace sooner or later. Every action, every moment is infused with the spirit of the divine. At the same time, we experience duality of the mind and ego, which veils, which takes over. It shows its crudity, its density. However, when the mind softens, more space allows for the higher grace to come through. And at the end of the day, all that ego seeks is the grace divine. It's just that the ego doesn't know a better way. So it's running in an automated way, what it already knows or what it assumes that will bring it happiness. However, the knowledge of the mind is limited, but the grace divine is infinite. So thus we need to learn about the way of the higher grace. It is a path of surrender. It is a path of allowing. And the ego holds on to the things that it knows and it says, these things are mine. These ways are mine. I don't know what I will do without this or that, or if something changes. So very obviously its ways are limited, but the path of surrender is the path to the higher grace, to the divine will that one learns to recognize. The divine will is operating every second, every moment. But one needs to be open to see it, to recognize it. One's heart needs to be open to receive it. One's heart needs to be emptied of pains and sorrows and hurts and fear so that love present can shine through, so that grace of God can make its activity through your heart. Usually one faces a challenge. One knows that something is right that has to be done, but then the mind kicks in with the pros and cons. The conscious mind starts to negotiate with the heart, with the divine will. And if the person's openness to the divine will is weaker, then the mind will take over. It will run its direction that it feels safer, that it feels more familiar. But sometimes the divine will is very different, very unexpected, very opposite, coming from higher place, not as usual, not as before. So thus, openness to the new, unexpected, completely different is the way of allowing more divine grace to come through. You see, the divine grace is the true reality. It is the truth, the love, the true happiness. But one gets attached to life, attached to what they know, what they have, what they possess, what they like. And thus one is bound to the materialism, to the causality, and thus limiting the new possibilities, new ways that can shine through. So we may witness this paradox on earth by what we call time. Even though humanity assumes that we're living in the modern era, but it is not the case at all. This is a human label that this is a modern era. What is modern? What is new? Actually, humanity is stuck in time, repeating the same lessons again, again, and again. Giving you a practical example, in the ancient texts of India, in the Vedas, there are clear descriptions of flying objects, of gods manifesting things, miracles happening everywhere, coming from the heavens, going back to the heavens, otherwise space or higher density. And thus these encounters were documented throughout the human history as mystical, mysterious, mythological, or just simply godly encounters. However, these godly beings, Christians call them angels, archangels, Hindus call them their own names. Every tradition has different names for them. They're simply more advanced beings. So are we living in a modern era? No. We are the children, catching up, repeating the lessons, trying to find a way to the higher, trying to grow up, trying to develop. I would say that right now humanity is at a young teenagehood time, not modern era as such. So knowing this, we may realize that even though humanity has been here for 2000 years of what is called modern times, well, it is all subject to ways of looking at it, but is more civilized, we may say, with the first civilization starting 5,000 years ago, 7,000 years ago. But in the universe of at least 14 billion years old, a few thousand years is nothing. So thus, by turning inwardly, turning higher, we may start to reconnect with the divine will, with the higher will. We may start to reconnect with the natural laws of the nature, with the natural laws of the universe, and learning how to harness these natural laws. One of them we did well, that's electricity. But many other things, humanity has still a lot to learn. So, turning inwardly, we attain deeper wisdom. we attain the grace, the showering of light. And what is light? It is the light powering the universe. When it reaches the universe, it starts to get translated into the various qualities. And essentially it gets diluted into information or knowledge. So what you read in the books, what you learn as knowledge information is actually light in its most diluted, limited form. And when you go backwards, inwards, back into the light, just like your 7 chakras, rainbow color, originate from the prism of a white light behind it, the same way the whole 3D, 4D, 5D densities are originating from a higher light above. And the same applies to the higher densities. So thus by going backwards and inwards, we surrender to this higher light, the light divine. We surrender to the love divine, which is in essence the same at its source. And thus we start returning, realigning, readjusting, refamiliarizing with the actual way of the source, with the actual way that everything is governed. And then we realize that our human efforts are only worthy if they are directed inwardly, backwardly to the higher will, to the divine light. Otherwise, having jobs, making money, having all sorts of experiences goes round and round and round. And when you come to the end of this cycle, which is called life, you leave everything behind. You have to leave all the jobs you've done. You have to leave all possessions you attained. All experiences and friendships become dusted in the sands of time. So essentially what we do take with us is our connection with the divine, is our alignment to the God's grace, God's will. Now, what is God's grace, the divine grace? Is that which uplifts one. If you were running in circles and somebody comes to you and says, oh, if you go there or if you do this, you will leave those circles that you've been running around and you will move forward. That is an example of the divine grace. It alleviates that which is unnecessary. It alleviates the efforts, struggles, pains, and sorrows that are self-inflicted. And of course, everybody has to burn through their karmas. But that process has a certain degree of efficiency. You see, you only need to learn what you need to learn. You only need to heal what you need to heal. But otherwise, you should move forward. You shouldn't repeat the same thing again and again and again. You shouldn't experience the same conflicts again and again and again. You shouldn't experience the same struggles again and again and again. That is not how life was meant to be. So thus by surrendering to the higher will, higher grace, you get uplifted, alleviated, your suffering, your burden is lessened. And how does it happen? How does it happen in reality? The divine grace, God's grace, comes from above via the intermediaries of God, otherwise known as gurus, sages, higher beings, who are the vehicles, the intermediaries of the Word of God, of the way of God. So why are these messengers? A Messiah is, in other words, a messenger of God. So various names are assigned to those who carry the will of God. So whatever name we choose, guides or gurus or teachers, messiahs or avatars or ascended masters, and any of these names are for the same beings who carry the will of God. So your grace comes through, the grace to you comes through via these beings, via association with these beings. And of course, people say, I don't know how it happened. I did it myself. That's ego. Nothing happens by oneself, especially if your mind thinks that it did it by itself. Nothing happens by itself. It happens by the powers, the laws, the nature, the higher will. And the ego, when it doesn't know, it claims that it did it, that it knows. That's how it usually goes. So essentially, by association with those who carry the divine will, one receives the divine will. Because in the universe, which is vast, there are many galaxies, a lot of emptiness. There are many planets, many uninhabited planets. Even here on Earth, there are many people, but not everyone receives this divine will or grace. Although throughout lifetime, it is made sure that at least once or twice, every person should receive that encounter, that mystical power, something higher that gave a hand in the unknown way. However, this happens in a normal, let's say, 3D lifetime once or twice. But those who walk the path of God, those who awaken to the higher way, they know that you can align to this higher way. You can get on your spiritual path, and there are many ways to do that. There are various paths to take, and each of those paths are supervised by the higher beings. Each of the paths are nurtured, are managed, are transmitted, are brought to humanity via these higher beings. For example, Hinduism by Brahman, Vishnu, and Shiva, Krishnaism by Krishna, Christianity by Jesus, Buddhism by Buddha. So all these beings showed the way, and they supervised that way. They are there still above supervising all these activities and souls who are aligned to these paths. So essentially, via association with the beings who carry the divine will is how one receives grace in reality. Because actually, the universe is pretty automated. It is an intelligent system which is governed by laws, and everything is synchronized and automated for the ease of management. But the universe is populated by many, many beings who take care of it, who take care of the garden. The garden knows how to grow in the backyard, but you or the gardener takes care of it and makes it beautiful. So the same way in the universe, whether it's 3D or above, everything is taken care of by someone. Everything is supervised. Everything is looked after by someone. And of course, for humanity, for many people who go in circles, this is time and time again, it is an open invitation to awaken. Time and time again, struggle after struggle, there is always invitation to look within, to seek further higher. I can easily tell you that divine grace comes through the higher beings, association with these beings. And this is how it can be brought to you. In addition, your own higher vehicles of consciousness also play a key role because in reality, other beings help you to awake, help your soul to return to its original home, to the Satlok, to the divine abode. So your vehicles of consciousness are the most powerful instruments of God for you, for they are yours. But assistance is necessary for you to open up, to rise from the slumber, to awaken from the dark night. Somebody to help you to recognize the higher ways, to show you the beauty of your own higher self, your own soul, your own divine self, the source self within you. Thus, it is called the process of self-realization, awakening, remembrance, ascension. Any way we call it, it's the same actually. How can we invoke the divine grace, the grace of God? By making an intention, by inviting the grace to come true, by meditating upon it, by associating and meditating upon the higher beings who could assist you. In the universe, there is a law, a rule, we may say. Well, Jesus also said that ask and you shall receive. In other words, you need to ask for help. You need to seek for this higher way. You need to work on it, very simply put. So that's how, by asking for help, by having a clear intention, by seeking this higher way or support, is how it will come to you in one way or another. And that is then up to the divine will, up to the grace of God. How it will manifest, then it is up to God. Of course, those who are more conscious, they know the way of God. They are co-creators of God or co-creator gods. And thus, many times throughout our day, for example, we create our synchronicities. We are fully conscious, and I mean our community and myself and beyond. So we create our synchronicities. We're fully conscious of it. We're fully conscious how it works. And then we ask for support, for help. And then we leave it up to God. And those who are conscious, they know how to co-create. They know what to do. They know how it works. And of course, the more everyone is conscious, the more everyone is able to be a co-creator of God. The very old trick of divide and conquer is the greatest struggle of humanity. Because by dividing, separating, and veiling the truth from humanity, everybody went their own ways. In the biblical story, everyone spoke the same language at first. That one language is actually telepathy. The only one true language in the universe is not spoken via your tongue and your lips, for they're different of all species. But the one true language is telepathy, including empathy, but telepathy is even more than that. So at some point we know in the history that humanity went wrong ways and the Tower of Babel was destroyed and humans were dispersed in different continents and their languages were split. Their tongues became different. They couldn't understand each other anymore. So by dividing, one conquers those who are weak. By dividing, everyone struggles. By dividing, everyone puts efforts and they don't know how it contributes to the higher, to the bigger, to the whole. Only now in these times we're coming to be more connected, more united, more aware, especially with the internet and so on. Now we have replaced, in other words, the natural way of communication, which is telepathy, into technological way, which is internet. This is a lower manifestation of the higher innate quality that all of you carry. So if you are on a higher dimension, you communicate telepathically. There's no more internet. For you can reach anyone and have a beautiful visual conversation with feelings, emotions, and senses, a complete exchange of one another via telepathy or a complete communication. It's 100 times more powerful than the internet, I tell you now. And that's how you interact and communicate with the higher beings. This is one example. So let's recognize that grace comes through the higher vehicles, higher beings. You may also receive grace, of course, from your own higher self, but you have to be very aware what is your higher self. You have to be very connected to recognize when your higher self functions and when a guide above functions to help you out.